everyone, Jim Biringer here, NHLRumors.com back again. The NHL trade deadline is passed. Please subscribe and like this video. We're talking about Mikko Rantanen. He is a member of the Dallas Stars. Our last rumor video, we talked about him potentially going to Dallas. Well, it happened on March 7th on the NHL trade deadline. Trade call complete, and he signs an 8-year extension, $12 million AAV. But there's a lot of fallout from Mikko Rantanen and Carolina Hurricanes because it seems from the beginning, Mikko Rantanen just didn't want to be there. Now, I'm putting words in his mouth. His agent said they were going to work it out. They were going to wait it out. But if you listen to the dialogue, when you read between the lines from what Eric Tulsky told Jeff Marek on the sheet to what Andy Scott, his Mikko Rantanen's agent from Octagon, said on Sportsnet, to what the coach said, it didn't sound like Mikko Rantanen ever wanted to play for the Carolina Hurricanes. And if you look at it and you look at his play, it's clear with the eye test that something was missing from Rantanen's game. Now, the trade itself from Colorado to Carolina was shocking for the player. Absolutely. He needed to get his adjusted to new settings, new surroundings. But when you have four nations coming up, when you have trade deadline coming up, there's not a lot of time to settle into your new surroundings. But the evidence is clear that the Carolina Hurricanes should have done some more due diligence when it came to Mikko Rantanen and him staying there, because he was never staying there. And he told Rod Brindamore, not right away, but weeks leading into the trade deadline, and it finally came to an fruition a week ahead of the trade deadline, according to Hurricanes general manager Eric Tulsky, that he said, I'm not signing here. I don't want to be here. But you drag out the process, going through meetings, listening to pitch offers. Why does that even happen if you already knew your mind was made up? And Rantanen's mind was definitely made up. It's like, you know, you're in a relationship with somebody, right? And you just drag it on, drag it on, drag it on. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Well, that's kind of what Rantanen did until it was too late. And I'm not saying that was the situation, but if you listen to Andy Scott, his agent, you listen to what Eric Tulsky has said, Rantanen never wanted to leave Colorado. Rantanen made concessions to stay in Colorado, but Colorado's like, nope, this is our offer, $11.65 million. We're not even going to 12. This is what we're going to pay you. We need the money for Kel McCarr and other players. This is what our offer is. You wanted to play hardball from the beginning, and we're moving you out. And that seems like how it worked, because at the beginning of the season, Rantanen was coming in at 14, even 13 million, and they were still ways away, and he didn't really want to negotiate during the season, similar to what we're seeing with Mitch Marner and Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's another video for another time. But if you look at the Rantanen situation, he went to them and he said, look, I'm willing to take less. Here's my number. But they said no. And then boom, the trade happens. That's kind of business. But Carolina knew before the trade even happened, because Andy Scott, as he said to Sportsnet, Eric Tulsky asked for permission to speak to Rantanen about an extension. He didn't even want to think about it. He didn't want to talk to him. Didn't even want to sign an extension because he knew he wasn't signing an extension. So before the trade even happens, they knew Rantanen wasn't going to sign. So why give up Marty Necas, the scorer that the team has been looking for, and Jack Drury? Because the Hurricanes play a certain style of play, a defensive style, and they score different ways, different players. It's not about, you know, what Rantanen does off the rush, things like that. Bringing the puck in, working it, things like that. And you could clearly see he didn't fit in. And you could clearly see the Hurricanes game was off because they had this superstar talent that they kind of had to cater to. And that's not what their game is about. And even Rob Brindamore was like, yeah, he came in here. He just didn't want to be here. He told us these are the 4 teams he wants to be traded to. Dallas was on the list. Vegas was on the list. Florida was on the list. Teams like that. Obviously, you know, teams that, you know, have no tax, things like that. And New Jersey was in on the deal, but, you know, Carolina's not going to trade him inside the division. So he tells him that. Rob was appreciated, letting him know he didn't want to stay there. But again, as he said to the media on Monday, questioning his general manager, why make the trade in the first place? And that's what we're all saying, because the trade never made sense. Yeah, you clear cap space. Yeah, you get Logan Stankoven back in the deal, who's on an RFA entry-level deal, who, by the way, looks great in a Carolina Hurricanes uniform and that system. He fits that system so well. You get 2 draft picks, but what you gave up in a score in Necas, and again, even Marty Necas was like, you know, it's tough place to play, you know, tough. I'm not even sure he wants to sign there. And he had a contentious deal with the Carolina Hurricanes last offseason about his contract extension. He only got a 2-year bridge deal. 6.5 million. He was looking for Aho money, Kakaniemi money. So, and again, the owner, Tom Dundon, it's a bad reputation, but guy's cheap, doesn't want to pay players. Not so much saying players don't want to stay, but even the Jake Getzel situation, which is different, but similar. They traded for a guy, UFA rental, which is not really their MO. And then he doesn't stay because they have cap issues, not to mention, again, Brendan Moore, you got to need a Dakota ring for him, but we didn't even offer him a deal. Tulsky said they offered him a deal. It just wasn't what he was looking for because the money just didn't work out because of the cap issues and they had all this other stuff that they had to deal with. Not sure Marty Necas stays if Jake Getzel's signed, but that's a different story for a different day, and that's something you can ask the general manager about down the road if they were able to sign Jake Getzel. But Carolina and the owner, again, not paying players. Look, Dougie Hamilton's situation, word is he didn't want to go up to $9 million to keep him. Then he goes to New Jersey. The things just didn't line up for Rantanen. Style of play under Brendan Moore. The player wanting to stay in Colorado, not really wanting to get traded, didn't want to go there to begin with, never really wanted to play there to begin with. All the signs point to the Carolina Hurricanes should have never made the initial trade back on the 24th of January of 2025. It just never made sense. They play a team game, a certain style of game, and the system just never fit Mikko Rantanen. It's not like he didn't like the coach, city, team, whatever. It just wasn't for him. And I think if things the way they played out, we talked about in the summer, 6 to 8 weeks leading up to the trade, you should have had an inclination at that point that maybe this isn't a good idea and we should have shifted to Vancouver for the Elias Pettersson deal that was on the table. Again, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, or in this case, Monday morning GM. 2020 is always hindsight, but at the time, myself at NHLRumors.com and others were saying this trade doesn't make sense. Why trade for Rantanen when you know he's probably not staying? He never signed a contract extension. Why didn't you get an extension along with the deal? Dallas, on the other hand, made sure the extension was in place first, then makes the trade. That's how you get it done. The market was probably there for Rantanen. Not sure many teams were going to pay him what he was looking for. He settles at 8 times 12. I think if that's the initial number in Colorado, he's a Colorado Avalanche, and none of the other dominoes happen. Not to say Marty Necas isn't traded down the line, but this thing could look a lot different. But I think from the get-go, Carolina should have known this wasn't going to be a fit, and he wasn't going to sign there or wanted to be there. This is Jim Biringer. Let me know your thoughts below. NHLRumors.com. Again, subscribe, like the video. Take care. We'll be back.